April 27th, 2026. Roughly 800 nautical miles west of the California coast, a commercial heavy jet is cruising at flight level 350. That is 35,000 feet of empty, rigidly controlled airspace. The pilots are staring out into the dark. Then, out of nowhere, they aren't alone. A solid, aggressively luminous object drops into their airspace. No wings, no exhaust, no transponder signal. The pilots don't panic. They lean into their training. They check their instruments. They call air traffic control. And this is where the story shifts from a weird ghost story into a documented hard data nightmare. Because civilian ATC radar paints the target, and military secondary radar allegedly paints it too. The screens show this object executing instantaneous speed adjustments and tearing through 90-degree turns that would rip a conventional airframe to shreds. For decades, YouTube has obsessed over the question, are we alone? Ask the wrong question, get the wrong answer. What happened over the North Pacific isn't about little green men. It's about a catastrophic, undeniable flaw in global aviation security. We have built a multi-billion-dollar safety net to protect the millions of people flying every single day. That net has a hole in it, and right now things are flying straight through it. To understand why this is a massive operational hazard, you have to understand how blind our ground systems actually are. Legacy primary radars were engineered for a very specific reality. They look for ballistic trajectories. They look for recognized radar cross-sections. The predictable bounce back of a Boeing 737 or a Cessna. These unidentified objects? They don't play by aerodynamic rules. They project variable radar cross-sections and non-coherent energy profiles. When a system built to track airplanes encounters something with zero wings, maneuvering at high Mach without a conventional heat signature, the software gets confused. It filters the data out as an anomaly, a glitch, a false positive. Our sensors aren't just failing to classify these objects. They are biologically failing to comprehend them. And to understand the gravity of this failure, we have to look back at the very foundation of air defense. Since the 1950s, radar technology has relied on a concept called clutter rejection. Our systems are intentionally programmed to ignore things that don't behave like birds, weather, or known aircraft. If an object doesn't follow a ballistic arc or a powered flight path, the computer literally scrubs it from the operator's view. To avoid confusion, we have essentially built a digital wall that only lets us see what we expect to see. But the technology appearing over the Pacific doesn't just bypass this wall, it exploits it. Recent engineering analyses suggest these objects may be utilizing active cancellation, a method of broadcasting a signal that perfectly offsets their radar return, making them practically invisible to legacy primary sensors. When they do appear, they manifest as ghost tracks, signals that move so fast or so erratically that air traffic controllers are trained to dismiss them as sensor malfunctions. This isn't just a technical glitch, it is a strategic blind spot. While the Pentagon spends billions on stealth technology to hide from our enemies, someone or something is already operating within our own controlled corridors using a physics-defying signature that our multi-billion-dollar infrastructure simply wasn't designed to catch. We are using 20th century eyes to watch 21st century threats. And as the data from April 2026 suggests, the gap between the two is becoming a dangerous canyon. You might think the government would be rushing to patch this vulnerability. They aren't. They are burying it in bureaucratic silence. On April 23rd, researchers at the Black Vault forced an FOIA dump of internal Pentagon emails regarding UAP management. The documents are heavily redacted, black ink everywhere, but what isn't blacked out is jarring. Internal chatter points directly to severe flight safety concerns. Do we get a press conference? No. Do we get a warning issued to commercial airlines? Nothing. Just strategic institutional silence. This silence isn't just a choice, it's a battleground. Within the halls of Congress, a quiet war is erupting between the legislative branch and the intelligence community. Lawmakers are demanding transparency, pointing to the 2024 UAP Disclosure Act, which was designed to strip away the secrecy surrounding these non-human signatures. Yet, as we see in the April 2026 documents, the pushback is immense. Whistleblowers have hinted at special access programs, deeply buried projects that operate without congressional oversight, programs that might already possess the sensor data NASA claims is missing. By withholding this information, the authorities aren't just protecting national secrets, they are arguably leaving the commercial aviation industry in a state of intentional vulnerability. If a pilot cannot be told what they are seeing, they cannot safely avoid it. 3 days later, on April 26th, the Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, AARO, updated their reporting trends. They admitted they have unresolved cases, but the mandated annual report? Nowhere to be found. NASA didn't help either. On April 27th, their portal casually dropped an update stating the obvious. The main scientific obstacle is a lack of standardized multi-sensor data. They are treating a real-time airspace hazard like an academic thought experiment. Because the North Pacific incident wasn't isolated. Right before that, between April 22nd and 24th, commercial crews over the Pacific Northwest reported red, maneuvering lights entirely off the grid. They had to execute precautionary route deviations to avoid whatever it was. In Nevada, FAA radar records obtained in the recent FOIA release detailed a pacing aircraft, an object that locked onto a civilian flight and maintained relative position for several minutes. Think about that. You are flying at 500 miles an hour, and an untracked, unrecognizable, massive object locks formation with your plane. There is a massive regulatory void here. The FAA, EASA, and ICAO don't talk to AARO or the European Space Agency about this. There is no protocol. If a drone wanders within 5 miles of an airport, operations shut down. Fines are issued, people are arrested, yet solid objects performing impossible physics are blowing past commercial airliners at 35,000 feet, and the aviation authorities are looking at their shoes. They are categorizing this as a phenomenon. It isn't a phenomenon, it is an operational hazard. Commercial flights rely on the Traffic Collision Avoidance System, TCAS. It tells your pilot if another plane is on a collision course and automatically commands an evasive dive or climb. But TCAS requires the other object to play by the rules. It requires a transponder. So what happens when a commercial 777 carrying 300 passengers crosses paths with an object moving at Mach 3 that doesn't broadcast a signal, that doesn't register on legacy radar until it's miles inside the safety bubble? We've seen this pattern of denial before. In the late 1940s and early 50s, a similar wave of encounters forced the military to create Project Blue Book. Back then, they dismissed hundreds of credible accounts from military pilots as swamp gas or weather balloons. History is repeating itself, but with a terrifying twist. Unlike the 1950s, we now live in an era of ubiquitous sensing. We have global satellite coverage, thousands of high-definition cameras in the cockpits, and sophisticated ELINT, electronic intelligence networks. The discrepancy between what our technology is recording and what our leaders are admitting has reached a breaking point. We are no longer relying on grainy Polaroids. We are looking at synchronized data across multiple platforms. To continue calling this a phenomenon is no longer just a scientific error. It's an active disinformation campaign. The media wants to debate whether it is foreign tech or something from another star system. They are missing the point. The real mystery they can't explain isn't what these objects are. It's why the people paid to keep our skies safe are pretending they aren't there. If the sensors we rely on are blind to the most advanced hardware currently dominating our airspace, how long until someone pays the price for that blindness? Subscribe. Question everything.